Welcome. I haven't seen everybody in so long. I'm so happy to be back. I decided it was a good idea for me to take a little bit of time off from teaching live during the busy 2022 fall wedding season. So, over these past few months, I've just been working as a wedding photographer, really focusing on that, focusing on taking good care of my clients, focusing on building my team. Um, and now I'm back here. So I'm very excited. I have a lot of really fun things planned for this upcoming year. And I do want to let all of you know that, if you're ever interested in working together for business coaching, I'm always open to having the conversation. Sometimes people don't know if business coaching is a good fit for them. And so I'm always happy to chat about that if that's something that you're kind of like curious about, but you're not sure if it's a good fit for you. I never consider any sort of conversation to be a waste of time. So I just want to let you know that just off the top. So if you're new here, my name is Erica Lehman. I am a business coach for wedding photographers, and I'm also a wedding photographer myself. I've been a wedding photographer for 13 years. And if you're tuning in here live and this was something that you prioritized in your day, number one, thank you. But number two, I'm sure that the title of this live was really like enticing to you. It was how to get more photography clients from Instagram. And I think that that's something that a lot of wedding photographers really desire to have. I think that a lot of us understand that we can get clients from basically anywhere, but there's something about Instagram that feels like, wow, if I could get a lot of my clients from Instagram, that would feel really good for me. I'm somebody that actually did not prioritize Instagram in the beginning stages of my business. I actually started my business before Instagram was even a thing, which kind of makes me sound like a dinosaur, but it's just the truth. And with that being said, when Instagram kind of came onto the scene, it wasn't marketed as a marketing tool for small businesses. And I was really apprehensive to even begin like a profile there as a personal profile. So when it became more of an option for businesses, I still was like not an early adopter. I was somebody that took my time there, and I didn't really have a strategy in place to get clients there. But at this point in time, after being on Instagram for like 10 years now as a business, and in prioritizing Instagram as a place that I do want to get clients, now I would say that I get about 50% of my wedding clients every single year from Instagram, and an even higher percentage of my wedding photography clients inquiries from Instagram. So like obviously I don't book every single inquiry that comes through, but a significant amount of my wedding photography interest comes from Instagram. And then the other 50% of actual bookings I usually get from referrals, whether that's other vendors, whether that is other clients, whether that's people who have just found out about me in the local area. Some of my clients come to me and they're like, hey, this person referred me to you. And they're people that I haven't even met in real life. And that to me is such like a compliment. But I do think that Instagram is a great place to be booking clients. And I do think that some of us will sometimes write it off because it feels burdensome. It feels heavy. It feels like just another thing that we have to do. It feels like we're competing with other people. It feels like if we spend time on the app, then we spend time on the app, just kind of like creeping on other people's profiles as opposed to actually booking clients. And there are some lost opportunities that I often see on Instagram that really can be massaged and they can be updated so that you can have more of a potential for conversion from having conversations on Instagram. And I think that's the thing with Instagram is that a lot of us kind of think like, oh, if we post like every once in a while, or even if we post consistently, we will just get clients from our posts, from what we share in our feed. We'll think that like if we hashtag things correctly, we will get clients. But still we kind of always feel like we might be at the mercy of the algorithm, right? And the algorithm's always changing. And that's the thing with Instagram and with any free thing that you use. It's going to be something that you are going to be at the mercy of whatever changes they make. But even with being at the mercy of the algorithm, there is opportunity for you to still book clients through a like platform like Instagram. And obviously like this live in particular is about Instagram. I think the biggest thing with Instagram is to understand from the get-go that Instagram, it looks like a portfolio, it's built like a portfolio, but it's actually if not the best place to foster connection with your clients. And I would argue that TikTok is actually coming up in the ranks on that. And so I would think that some of the strategies that I share with you today are things that you can leverage on your TikTok account as well as TikTok becomes more popular for people who are actually getting married. I think at the very beginning of TikTok's outset, a lot of the people, the statistics show, a lot of the users that were on TikTok were actually young. They were not of marrying age. The highest percentage of people that were on TikTok were actually like 10-year-olds. And so a lot of us didn't prioritize anything on TikTok, and that was okay for that period of time. But I do believe that more and more people who are of marrying age are spending time on TikTok. But with that being said, I still do believe that Instagram is kind of like the top place to be finding wedding photography clients, as opposed to TikTok. Not that you can't book people from TikTok, but I think that Instagram is a really great place to be booking. And with that being said, like I said before, just keep in mind that I think that a lot of these strategies can be re-leveraged into your TikTok strategy as long as you're open to doing the work. And I think that's the thing here is that anything that you want in your business, you have to do the work to get it. So you can't be inconsistent. You can't just post out of obligation. You can't be like, this sucks, and then expect people to show up in the not this sucks energy, right? So if you're just always constantly looking at Instagram or even TikTok as something that's just a pain in the ass, that energy will flow through whatever content you create and however you show up in your business, for these different platforms. And you won't get great connections and great conversions there because of that energy and because of that attitude. Something that I think is really important for all of us to know is that the way that you handle yourself as a person, as an individual, as a full-bodied human affects everything in business. Business and humanity are inextricably linked. And I think that that hasn't always been honored. I think that hasn't always been paid attention to. I think, the idea of corporate America and the masculine type of rat race has not allowed for those types of things to be explored in the recent past. But I think we're kind of getting to a new point in life, in business, in small business entrepreneurship land, that we really understand that like who we are as an individual really impacts what happens in our business. And so if we're not taking good care of ourselves and we're not renewing our mindsets and we're not continuing our own education as we move forward in our journey, if we're constantly investing in things instead of ourselves, that will show in your business and what the success is in your business. There's also something to be said here too, that like good things take time. And so if any person tells you, or any company or any like ad tells you that you can get like 10 million followers like this, or you can book like a bunch of clients like this, there's always going to be a cost attached, right? So speed often comes with a monetary cost, right? But something like remaining consistent and implementing organic strategies that are free on places like Instagram, those also have a cost, but the cost is patience, the cost is consistency, the cost is energy, right? So it's a little bit of a different cost. But I always think that it's better to try to do things yourself for a while before investing in something paid that would get you more clients on Instagram. Because also, like, if everything is so transactional with the way that you get your clients, if people kind of just feel like they're on the end of like a bill or the end of your paycheck, that will also impact the types of clients that you actually get in your inbox. You may get a ton of inquiries from submitting a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad, but will those actually convert, right? That's something to ask yourself. I think another thing to ask yourself here is, you may get a ton of inquiries, but are they the types of people that you actually want to work with? When people come in for services based on ads, this is different for products, but when people come into your inbox for services based on an ad that they've seen, they have not usually most of the time had the opportunity to take a look at who you are and to kind of follow you organically and really start to intimately know you. And so sometimes it becomes a transactional thing that is not only there for the client, but it then feels like you're a part of the transaction. It feels like they're buying you. It feels like you're just there to serve as a body behind a camera. And that doesn't feel good either. So, what I really want you to know with Instagram is that although it was created as like a portfolio and like a place to hold memories, I believe, like I said before, one of the best places ever to create and foster connection, especially because of the tools that you have on Instagram and within the DM like suite on Instagram. But the thing is that if you are going to want connection on Instagram and you are going to want to create community on Instagram and you are going to be wanting to get clients on Instagram, you have to be willing to make the connection. You have to be willing to show up first and consistently show up first, because people aren't going to know who you are unless unless you're showing up. So if all you're sharing to your Instagram stories is just like, resharing the posts that you've created or resharing other people's posts, if all you're sharing on your Instagram stories are like little quotes here and there, and you're not actually showing up as you yourself, then you're not going to get as many inquiries or as many consultations or as many actual clients converting as you would if you actually showed up. So there are 3 things that I want to share with you today that I think will help to get you to a point where you can start to convert more from Instagram. And what I also want to share with you here is that, like I said before, this takes time. You have to be consistent. You have to do the work. You have to do it even when you don't feel like it. And you have to kind of craft like a good mindset around it. Like we don't want to gaslight you out of your feelings. Like you can feel your feelings, but feelings aren't always facts. If you go into wanting to create connection on Instagram and you automatically think to yourself, well, I'm going to show up, but this isn't going to work, then it won't work, right? It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And any time that you look for evidence that it could be different, it won't be there, because really the evidence that you're looking for is that it's not working. So the 3 things that I want to share with you today to start to like revamp some of the way that you may be thinking about inquiries on Instagram, inquiries through Instagram, some of the ways that I want you to maybe consider adding some stuff to your Instagram strategy. These are three things that I think are like super helpful, and I use them all the time. So the first thing, if you're not new here, you've heard me say this, like I am like the mouthpiece of connection-based content. And what I mean by that is that you're not just sharing random stuff here and there that has no real feeling and no real association for your clients to feel into as part of your static post plan. So what you really should be sharing on Instagram for your, static posts is a wedding, like a picture from a wedding and a story from that particular day. And the more intimate you can get the story, the more likely it is that it's going to stick in people's brains. If you can share a story maybe about your own wedding, that's very intimate for people to hear and connect with. If you can share a story maybe about your own family, that feels very intimate, and something that sticks in people's brain to connect with. One of the highest performing posts that I ever had in like all of my years on Instagram was that I shared on my Instagram about how important family is on a wedding day. And I truly do understand that. And like, we're all wedding photographers, and I think we all get frustrated with family photos sometimes. And sometimes, how controlling some family members can be. But at the end of the day, like, these family members are still really important to the couple, right? And I know that, like, with my nephew, I'm obsessed with him. I think he is the bomb. And I know, like, there's a potential that I might be the auntie that's like slightly annoying on his wedding day if he gets married in the future. And I shared about how important it would be to me in the future if he does decide to get married. He's very young now. He's not of marrying age. But how important it would be in the future if he gets married to just get a photo with him. And that might feel annoying for a wedding photographer because I'm not immediate family. I'm his auntie, right? I'm not his mom. I'm not his sister. I'm his auntie. And that might feel annoying to be like, oh my God, like here we have these extraneous family members who want photos with their people. But I also thought in that moment, like, how sad would I be if I didn't get that photo, right? And I would be fine, truthfully, with doing just like an iPhone photo of the two of us together that day in the future, probably 20 years from now. But it would still just be a really nice gesture for me to have that photo with him. And so I shared that on my Instagram profile as a static post that like families are so important. Here's how I would envision myself on a particular wedding day for, one of my nephews. And that has gotten me clients, that static post alone. But it required that I become very intimate and very okay with intimately sharing how I would personally feel if I was in somebody else's shoes. It required that I think about what my clients go through on a wedding day, that I think about what my clients' family members going through on a wedding day. I also recently posted a post on my static feed about moms on wedding days. And truthfully, I don't have a ton of experience with that. I have a personal experience. I have experience with that in managing wedding clients on a wedding day, but I don't have personal experience because my mom wasn't there. But sometimes I truly do see in certain moms' characteristics on a wedding day how I believe my mom would have acted on my wedding day. And that's both like a gift and it's something to grieve, right? And I shared about that on my static feed, and it got like a decent amount of engagement, and it's something that sticks in people's minds. And so creating content that is connection based requires that you kind of like take off the mask. It requires that you put yourself in other people's shoes. It requires that you commit to memory certain points of a wedding day that you know are going to be important to a couple, right? It's not always about the couple itself. Sometimes it's about the family. Sometimes it's about the wedding party. Sometimes it's about the other vendors. Sometimes it's about the location. So there are lots of ways for you to think about creating connection-based content on Instagram in a way that tells a story that feels very intimate, that draws people in, and then allows them to think like, wow, like this person has committed to memory and has been so vulnerable themselves around my wedding day that like I need to have this person here with me, because if I don't, I won't get the same level of intentionality that I really desire to have with me on a wedding day. And that does lead me kind of like to my next point, but I think there's something to be said here that people are incredibly savvy. I think like 10 years ago, wedding photography clients, I mean, even though like 10 years ago is really not that long ago, but I think 10 years ago, like 10 to 20 years ago especially, people were kind of okay with just hiring a wedding photographer as a service provider. But now wedding photographers have become really personal brands. And in them becoming personal brands, the clients understand intimately that this person is showing up or should be showing up 110% as themselves as a human being. And although it was okay 10 to 20 years ago to be hiring somebody as just like a body behind a camera, as just like a service provider, that's not what most clients are looking for now. And for all of my coaching clients, those are not the clients that they want, right? Like they don't want clients that they don't feel like they can connect to. And so if they don't want clients that they don't feel like they can connect to, then their clients aren't going to want a photographer that they don't feel like they can connect to, right? And so the next thing that kind of like leads into that and like that sense of connection and how smart our clients are and how savvy our clients are and how sophisticated in the market our clients are, we also have to consider that like not only are we creating like static content or maybe reels type content or something of that nature that kind of calls into what I just shared, but we also need to be showing ourselves. And a lot of my clients, and I think a lot of photographers in general, really struggle with this. And I'm not saying that to call people out, but it is a rub for most people. It is something where, they just want to show up, and because they're used to being behind the camera, what they want to show up as is their photos. But like the truth is that you're not your photos. You're not even your business. Like you're a personal brand, but you are not your photos. And so if you want people to connect with you based on you, you actually have to show up. So this means like you get in your Instagram stories and you chat with them, even when you look like trash, even when you've just, got off of a workout, even when you're just sitting in your car, even when you've just gotten done like cleaning up after your kids. Like you have to show up. Like you, your face, your voice, right? I highly recommend doing it in video content. It's a quick, quippy thing, just connecting with people. But because our clients are so connection based and because they're so savvy and so sophisticated, they are not going to feel connected with you if you don't show up, right? And then you can't be mad that you're not getting good clients or clients at all. And the reason why you're not getting clients is, well, one of the reasons, but one of the reasons why you're probably not getting clients, especially off of Instagram, is that you're not showing up in your story. Like you're not being vulnerable yourself, but you're expecting other people to be vulnerable with you, right? Actually, Amanda just joined, and Amanda is excellent at this strategy. She shows up in her Instagram story all the time, and she also gets really excellent clients. And something that I really admire with Amanda is that, like, she and I are good friends, and sometimes there's stuff going on in her life that nobody would know except me because we're good friends, right? And her other friends and her family, but she still makes it a point to show up in her Instagram story almost every single day. She's always in there creating conversations. She's always in there asking questions. She's always in there offering tips. She's always in there kind of like cheering on her couples. She is excellent at this strategy, and she has been consistently excellent at this strategy. And what I'll tell you is that it's not easy for anybody to start this. It's not easy for anybody to show up and just be consistently in your story. But if you're consistently in your story, I would say for six months to a year, like I said before, there is a cost to organic marketing. It is energy, it is patience, it is consistency. If you show up consistently in such a long time frame, I would not be surprised if you start to see more inquiries from Instagram, more traction on Instagram, and things of that nature. So you can't expect people to connect with you in a way that feels good for you if you're not willing to connect and offer the invitation to connect in the first place. And one of the best places to do that is in your Instagram story. And sometimes people will say, well, I just sound awkward, or I just look awkward. I don't know any human being that doesn't feel that way. Literally, no human being. You think I love being live? I could take or leave it. I could take or leave it, right? And the first few lives, especially that I ever did here, they were a shit show. Let's be honest. They were a mess, right? There was one time I did a live where I hadn't put my dogs in like the container that I put them in for these lives, and they started going nuts because the mailman came. I had to stop the live abruptly. It was so jarring. And I felt I felt so foolish. And so let me tell you, it's not easy for me to show up here all the time either. There are sometimes too that I show up in my story and you would never know that half an hour beforehand, I was super sick with cramps, right? And not that you always have to be doing the most, right? But you need to make it a priority, right? So that on the days that you can't show up because you are actually sick or you have stuff going on like a wedding, that people are not kind of thrown off, or there's kind of availability there, right? Because you've been consistent on Friday, take off that day on Saturday if you need to, right? But do your best to show up consistently in your story and speak to your people and speak about your people and share with them, because if you want connection, and connection truly is what fosters conversions, people buy and invest based on how you make them feel, right? If you want that, you have to show up first. And nobody wants to hear it, but it's the absolute truth. But I dare you, try it for the next 6 months and see what happens. And then the last thing I want to share with you is that I really want to change some of the narrative around how we feel about DMs. And I know the DMs make a lot of people feel some type of way. And it's not only photographers, it's other creatives as well, because DM is such an accessible communication tool that it feels like a lot of the time when we get DM inquiries, they actually feel primarily like you're price shopping or like they're price shopping. And I think there are two things to consider here. Number one, I think there's a lot of stuff to consider here. So here we go. Number one, money is important to people. Money is a driving factor for a purchase. So if you want to make sure that people feel connected to you before spending their hard-earned money on you, you have to show up. And part of showing up is being open to having DM conversations. And if you have on your Instagram profile that like not to DM you, or if you share in your Instagram story, don't DM me, you can't be surprised that you're not going to get as many inquiries from Instagram, especially that you want to, because you're not actually open to them. So you want them to find you on Instagram, but you don't actually want to have the conversation on Instagram. And can Instagram DMs feel annoying when somebody says to you, like, hey, are you available for a session? How much is it? Yeah. But number one, it's a really accessible communication tool. It's one of the easiest ways for people to reach out to you, right? That's number one. Number two, money is a driving factor, like I said before, and so is time. People don't want to invest time with you, especially if they haven't connected to you prior. So they want to get all the information that they need right away in order to make a quick decision. But you don't necessarily want them to make that quick decision, right? Like the main issue why you don't like DM inquiries and the price shopping is because it makes you feel like you're disconnected. But a lot of the time that disconnection comes from you not showing up or you not being able to have a conversation on Instagram. There's something here too where I think you just have to be open to it. And if you want people to have conversations with you and to connect with you, you have to be open to having conversations wherever they are wanting to have conversations. And so if you know that the majority of your clients are on Instagram or come from Instagram, or you want more to come from Instagram, you have to be willing to have conversations with them. And there's actually a lot of data that's out there that kind of shows that having conversations on Instagram kind of props you up in the, for lack of a better word, the algorithm. But it's going to, because you're active on Instagram, even if you're not out there engaging, but you're active in your inbox and people are responding to your stuff, Instagram is like, oh, this is an active account, and it creates community. So it's going to bump you up, right? There's something to be said too, that if you are not open to conversations through DM, there's going to be a disconnect that clients feel, although they may not be able to articulate it, but they're going to feel weird and a little uneasy because things feel disjointed. Because what's going to happen is they're going to maybe find you on Instagram, see that they can't DM you, send you an inquiry form if they even get to that point, and they're going to send you the form. You're going to write back with your email response and your welcome guide that's going to mention, I would love to connect with you. Let's have a conversation. Let's get on a Zoom call. But because they've gone through all these motions trying to get around your aversion to DMs, they're not going to want to have really a conversation with you on Zoom because it makes them feel uneasy, right? Like it makes them feel like there's a lack of something here. Like we don't know what's going on, but like we had to jump through all these hoops to just connect with this person. And here she is like saying she doesn't want DMs, but she wants to hop on a Zoom call with me. It doesn't make sense. So if you want connection, you have to be open to maintaining connection and offering invitations to connection, maybe in places that you don't always love to be, right? But it's up to you to drive the connection. And I think that's something to also know too, is that when your DMs are open and you are getting people who are price shopping, because like I said before, money is always going to be a part of a determining factor, right? And I think that's something to especially know as there's been so much language around the recession right now, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if those that are open to DMs actually get more type of price shopping messages, because especially over the next coming years, there's going to be more of an emphasis put on money because of the recession, right? And even if our people are not necessarily feeling like the most extreme effects from the recession, everybody feels the recession in some way. And even if they don't feel it, they are influenced by society and culture around them. So it's going to be top of mind for them, right? And so it is actually up to you to drive the connection based type of conversation if somebody sends you a DM. So especially if they send you a DM, they're basically raising their hand and being like, hey, I want some more information. And they might not do it in the best way and it might be annoying, but like also, like I said before, time is important to people. People don't want to waste their time. So they just want quick information so that they can move forward with their decision. But the best way to handle price shopping type of DMs is to say like, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. I so appreciate that you're interested in working with me. Can you let me know where your venue is and what date you're looking at, right? Then they can tell you. This starts to drive the conversation. And they also don't feel like you're stringing them along. You're actually asking for this information because you need it, because you need to see where you would be going and what day you would be working, right? So they understand that. And then they'll tell you, and then you can say, thank you so much. I am available on your date. This is so helpful. I would love to connect more. Here is a link to my contact form. If you wouldn't mind filling that out just with some general information, maybe even some of the conversation that we've had here, that would be so helpful because it's easier for me to send my welcome guide and my email to you and the information in an email as opposed to a DM. Because otherwise in DM, like it's true, you're sending like 10 million links. I even had that situation recently where somebody sent me a DM inquiry and I was like, well, here's all the information. But it was like 3 different links and like how annoying is that? Like I felt annoyed sending it, like I'm sure the person felt annoyed like receiving it. And I actually noted that. And I think that's something too when you're having DM conversations with people, like be who you are. Like I said to her, you know, this is so annoying that I'm sending you 10 million links, but like let me know if you want more or less, right? And then that's how you get them out of your inbox. That's how you start to track them in your client management system. And that's how you start the email conversation that can then convert into a Zoom consultation. And then because you've been welcoming and open for the entire conversation and the entire duration of their inquiry, you can then, a lot of the time, convert the people that come to you from Instagram. So I've given you a lot of really good information to consider today. Just to wrap it up, I want you to consider that, like, number one, you're not at the mercy of the algorithm. The algorithm has changed so many times over these past few years. And you can still book clients on Instagram. Whether or not you feel like it, it's totally possible. I don't have a ton of Reels type content on my Instagram account for my photography, but I'm still getting clients from Instagram. So I think that's significant. And I think that's something to know. I think too, being open to connection, being open to conversations, being open in general is really important, especially for Instagram, because although it's created as a portfolio, it is also the best place to be fostering community and connection, I feel like, on social media right now. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be open to sharing yourself, whether it's in the content that you create, like the captions for your static posts or your reels, or actually, and showing your face on your Instagram story. It's kind of like a non-negotiable. And I think at this time, you know, we can feel our feelings, but if we want the success that we want, we have to understand that, like, we have to take certain actions to get to the point that we want to see that success. We can't just kind of coast and hope that we get what we want. We really have to work for it. And you, like, showing up in your Instagram story, it might feel like work because it freaking is. It is. And then just be open to DMs. Be open to having conversations with people. Be willing to, you know, sift through the icky feelings of being like, oh, like this feels like price shopping. But knowing that, like, you actually, like, the ball is actually in your court and you have the opportunity to create that connection, which will then move forward, hopefully, into a conversion. So that's everything that I have for you today. Thank you for being here. Those that joined me live, I so appreciate it. This is actually not going to show up on my Instagram feed. So you're the only people that got it. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions about us working together as a coach, I am always happy to have conversations in the DM about that. All right. Have a great day, and I will chat with you all soon.